On this edition of Fulton at Work, dozens of people pack a county venue hoping to land a job. We'll review Fulton's ongoing joint effort to get people back to work. And we'll give you the inside perspective on how county leaders are attracting businesses back to the county's south side. I'm Daryl Carver. All this and more on Fulton at Work. Please stay with us. Welcome to the show. I'm Daryl Carver. Today on Fulton at Work, we're taking a look at helping Fulton County residents get back to work. A number of county partners joined forces with state and private sponsors to host a job fair with that one singular mission. FGTV's Felicia Church has that story.
With resumes in hand, Fulton residents packed the halls and rooms of the Fulton County Aviation Community Cultural Center. And almost all of them were looking for employment, while employers were looking for someone to hire.
I came because I received an email of an actual job fair that would be going on to help the community to find different jobs that were there. I'm in between contracts. Also, I knew a couple of family members who would actually need some positions. So I packed them on up in the car, said, let's go, let's see what we can do, and actually get some aid, and wanted to thank everyone who was actually coming here to give those positions.
We have openings, anything from cashiers to valet drivers to parking lot attendants. It's just an exciting place to work. When you come on board with us, we like to hire our management team from within. So it's a great opportunity, part-time and full-time jobs available.
Fulton's economic development experts partnered with the state's labor department and the county's workforce development team to offer whatever placement assistance they could.
The Georgia Department of Labor is in partnership with South Fulton County Economic Development Initiative and Fulton County Workforce Development to connect employers with job seekers. We've got approximately 25 employers in there, along with some training venues and schools, and we're having a good turnout.
We're here just making sure that resumes are in hand, that people are ready for interviews, to stand in front of those employers, making sure that there's smiles on their faces, things like that, just to build up their confidence so that they can present their best face for those employers.
According to labor officials, unemployment numbers have dropped, both nationally and locally. But for the people who came here looking for a place to work, unemployment is still very real for them.
I think it should be more industries available for displaced or dislocated workers in this area. So that would decrease the unemployment rate, considering Georgia.
Reporting for FGTV, I'm Felicia Church.
Thanks, Felicia. Arthur Brown was the key person in charge of that event. He is with the county's South Fulton Unincorporated Economic Development Initiative. First of all, Mr. Brown, thank you and welcome to the show.
And thank you for having me, and please call me Art.
Well, Art, one question I had is,
sure,
just judging from what we saw there, it looked like the turnout was fairly high. I mean, at that event. Would you describe that as being a pretty fair assessment?
That's an excellent assessment. The actual numbers were 468 job seekers. And at the same time, as was mentioned on the piece, there were 25 employers there that were represented as potential employers.
And what was your team's goal going into this particular event in terms of trying to reach connect a lot of those employers and potential employees?
Our goal was roughly to look at 300 job seekers to attend the event. And as you see, we exceeded that by almost 150 persons. Now, and that's a bittersweet number, I should say, because if there are not that number of persons who are seeking jobs, that means we still have a ways to go to fulfill permanent employment. But we did achieve that goal, and as a result of some conversations that I had with employers after the event, there were several employers who actually hired persons as a result of the event.
I was going to ask you about the feedback you got from those employers. Did you get the sense that they were seeing the type of resumes, the type of folks that they were looking for as a general role? And
that's correct. That's absolutely correct. One of the things that we did in an attempt to try to target potential job seekers were ask the employers to provide job actual descriptions, so that when they sent out the potential job descriptions, the persons who had those potential activities and those potential functions to perform, those persons were definitely invited to the career fair. So that made it a targeted event, meaning that we had job seekers that met some of the requirements of the employers.
And I think it's kind of interesting that your office focuses primarily on economic development on the city's south side. Is that part of the reason you specifically wanted to initiate a job fair?
Absolutely correct. One of the first things that I did when we came on board was actually made visits to the employers, and one of the very first things that I saw, or two things, was license plates in the parking lots that were not Fulton County. They were as far away from as Alabama. So, and then actually after speaking to some of the employers, one of the things that they said, we could do better if we had a closer labor force that would represent a viable labor force for them. So we sought out at that moment to look at how we could impact the employers needing job workers.
If you could tell some of those employers that did attend this event.
Sure. We had Amazon Fulfillment Center, we had Sunny Delight, Tie Down Engineering, Atlanta Beverage were just a few of the major companies that attended. From the piece that you also saw, Lanier Parking was an attendee. And one of our future partners that we expect to work with definitely in the future is Atlanta Tech. Atlanta Tech will perform a training function for those employers that need training for their prospective as well as existing employees.
And tell us about the partnerships that you all forged for this event with the State Department of Labor, Fulton's Workforce Development Department as well.
And certainly this event would not have been successful without that partnership. So going forth, not having that specific experience on doing a job fair, we reached out to the Georgia Department of Labor as well as the Workforce Department. Those entities have experience in putting on these kinds of events, and so the event was successful because of their participation.
Now, in the previous piece, we heard from some of those job seekers about what they saw, what they went through, what they experienced there. Give us also a sense of what you heard from some of the folks, some of the residents who attended this.
Sure. One of the things that not knowing what to expect going in was to look at how we could control the crowd. So the room that we had, while it was large enough, but it did not necessarily equal the amount of persons who came to the event. So we had a crowd control, and that helped not only the employers be able to speak in detail with the job seekers, but also the job seekers didn't have to be really crowded when they actually spoke with some of the job employers. So that really helped to make the event successful. We also had sponsors to provide refreshments for primarily the employers, but we had I guess a banner sponsor that also was able to, and Sunny Delight, that was also be able to provide juice boxes for all of the attendees as they left the event. So that was an unexpected benefit that the job seekers were able to have as they left the event.
And what was some of the input you got from a lot of the employers that were there in terms of, I think we discussed this earlier, in terms of some of the people they had spoken to and the connections they made with a lot of those employees? Well,
that was one of the main things was they were able to find persons that fit their job needs. And that came about more or less as a result of them providing a job description of the positions that they had available, and we being able to actually have or encounter persons who had some of those skill sets that they needed. That's a primary issue that we had that I think occurred as a result of the event.
And what are some of your future plans in terms of doing a similar event down the road?
Well, we'll address that as we go forth. I know that we will not have been able to address all of the job needs of the employers, but hopefully that this will help in being able to address some of those needs. As I go out to make visits to the corporations, I'll find out and ask them what are their future job needs. And again, one of our partners who we expect to move out on the boulevard in the very near future is Atlanta Tech. We hope that is going to be a banner opportunity for the employers to engage with Atlanta Tech for training, as well as Atlanta Tech to be able to provide students who actually can go to work for some of those employers.
I mean, what do you think is the biggest challenge for a lot of these employers trying to find those qualified workers that they're looking for?
And that is the biggest challenge. And it's not necessarily a college education or a college degree, but those technical skills. And that, again, is what Atlanta Tech provides. They provide technical skills that a lot of the employers need. And at the same time, the employers will be able to engage with Atlanta Tech to provide a curriculum design based upon what their needs are. So that will certainly serve as a banner opportunity when Atlanta Tech is able to move out on the boulevard and be able to provide those skill sets and those training that the employers need.
And any final thoughts about this job fair?
Well, it was an effort that was very much needed. We hope that we don't have to do another event again because there was a lot of work, a lot of time involved. But if the need is there and we have to do that, it'll certainly be something that we'll certainly consider. Workforce has become a major issue in the economic development realm. So this is not something that is going to go away fast. So we'll look forward to the challenge if it presents itself in the future.
Now, Art, we're going to ask you to stay with us. When we come back, we want to talk about overall economic development strategy in South Fulton County. So you stay with us as well.
Look forward to it.
Welcome back. For years, businesses along the corridors in what is now unincorporated South Fulton were a major part of the county's economic engine. These businesses brought in millions of dollars of revenue for Fulton County. And while many businesses are still quite successful in South Fulton, the county is also making a major push to bring in even more companies. Now, Art Brown is back with the county's South Fulton Economic Development Initiative. And again, thank you for joining us once again. One of the things we wanted to ask you about was, in our last segment, we talked about some of the ways your office is helping to get people to work, especially in South Fulton. But your main mission is to attract companies to that area as well, correct?
Well, yes and no. Our main mission is to actually retain the existing business establishments that are in unincorporated South Fulton County. And then by that, we hope to be able to go out and attract new businesses. And what that means is essentially if we have a successful existing business base, then being able to go out and attract new businesses will be less challenging. One of the things that typically happens while we are going to focus on the marketing aspect of being able to go out and attract those new businesses, they're going to actually go out, the new business attraction, they're going to actually go out and talk to the existing businesses to find out the real story, what it's like, what is not, what they don't like about the area. And that, in many cases, is going to be the precursor to determine whether that business actually lands in unincorporated South Fulton.
What are some of the things that could attract a business to that area? I know, is some of it ancillary industries that are already in place, for instance, Hartsfield-Jackson Airport being one of the biggest ones in that area?
Okay, and you named a major factor. Location is typically a factor that makes a decision. The area is a major warehouse and distribution corridor. So, and it sits right at I-20 and the intersection of 285. That allows businesses that need to have access to 85, 75, Interstate 20, easy access. You mentioned Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. That is definitely an advantage. Now, also with the deepening of the port, and we expect to have larger numbers of cargoes coming through Atlanta, that certainly helps in an attraction here also. Now, something that is an asset that is not very well promoted is Brown Airfield. While it's a small airport, it is an attraction also. We have a number of major corporate entities there. We have Miller Zell, we have Sunny Delight, we have Kellogg's, we have PepsiCo. Those are major corporate, while those are not corporate headquarters office, they're corporate locations that also help attract businesses to the area.
And what do you hear from a lot of these companies that they feel is missing in South Fulton that your team is now trying to address?
Well, one of the major challenges we have are some of our impediments. And one of those challenges that we just talked about in the last segment is workforce. So we're working on that. We also have a security issue. and that we kind of define as around I-20 and Fulton Industrial Boulevard, and we're working to clean up that area. And if employers and employees don't feel safe, they're certainly not going to, one, stay there as well as locate there. So we're working to help that. Thirdly, we have a need for infrastructure challenges. One of those infrastructure challenges that we're working on as we speak is broadband and fiber. As we know, in today's business environment, without internet access and the capability of broadband, businesses are just not going to be, they're not accepting an area without that. I did not mention Amazon Fulfillment Center, but they were there also as part of the work fair. So they're looking to grow there, and they were actually seeking 300 employees. So those are just a few of the challenges that we have to work on to help make the area much more attractive to our business to stay there, as well as to those who might want to locate there.
I know historically South Fulton has suffered from challenges in terms of the perception of South Fulton. Being a South Fulton resident, I know there's perception and then there's reality. How much work do you have to overcome some of the perceptions or misconceptions people have of that region?
And you're absolutely correct, because that is the biggest thing that we have to overcome. Now, and that becomes a PR/marketing campaign that we have to do. And that involves really making sure that our existing businesses are involved to promote the area. Some of the businesses that are long-term residents say that they stay there because they like the area, because it's where they want to be, and it works for them. So that's the challenges that we have to certainly overcome.
I know when I've talked to other development folks in the past, one of the things that they see is for every entity that they want to attract is competition from neighboring jurisdictions, offering incentives that Fulton may or may not be able to match. Is that a challenge that you see as well?
Yes, it is. But one of the incentives that we have is part of the area is what's called an opportunity zone. And for those businesses that are in the opportunity zone, they get a chance to be able to have a tax rebate of $3,500 per job per year. So that is essentially the only real incentive that we offer. But we try to counter that with being able to, my partner and I, Edward Nelson, we provide essentially a hands-on types of technical assistance where we actually get in and work with the business to find out what are some of their needs, some of the issues are, some of their concerns are, to help make them want to stay there as well as grow there. We're also finding that there is a fairly from the manufacturing operations there are some clusters of businesses. One of those clusters is a food and beverage cluster where we've been able to engage them in coming together to talk about some of their issues, some of their concerns, and how they can address them. And who better to help address those issues are those businesses from those clusters, so they can tell us what their needs are, they can tell us how we need to address those, and we're essentially going about looking at how we can address those needs. We're also in the process of preparing a business visitation program. That is something where we'll actually be going out and making a visit to all of the businesses, as many of the businesses as we can that will allow us to do that, to find out and seek out what their needs are and their concerns and how we may be able to address those needs.
Now, who are some of your partners in your effort to bring more companies to South Fulton County?
Okay, one of those partners is the Development Authority of Fulton County. They, in essence, provide a financing vehicle to assist us. Again, we talked about we have a Fulton County Railroad called Omnitrax. They're, in essence, a partner. We partner with Georgia Power. We partner with Atlanta Gas Light. Those are just some of the partners that we work with to help bring businesses. And many of those businesses, in particular, let's say the food and beverage operation, they use a huge amount of water typically. So we have to work closely with our City of Atlanta, because they provide the water resources, as well as Fulton County, which provides sewer services. So those are just some of the partners that we work with to help engage, one, to retain our existing business, as well as to help look at going after and attracting new business.
And I wanted you to just kind of share some final thoughts on just what you think still needs to be done in South Fulton and how you think your office can help do that.
Well, that's still a long list of things that need to be done. One of our, as I mentioned earlier, is security. And that is, and you mentioned also perception. Those are the two things that we're working on every day. Perception, and while many people feel that and they look at perception of the area as being a negative, we have businesses that have actually located in Ground Zero, which is the area at Fulton Industrial Boulevard and I-20. But that is that, and so we still have to work on that perception. The real issue of security, crime, and other issues that's going on in the area is something that we're very much partnering with our police force and code enforcement. And as we work on those issues, we're going to look at how we can update and upgrade some of the business establishments to help improve them. So once we do those things, we're certainly going to see a groundswell in the retention and the attraction of new business to the area.
And I know a lot of us who live in South Fulton are certainly looking forward to that. Art Brown, thank you so much for being on the show, and by all means, please keep us posted on the progress of all these developments.
Great. And thank you certainly very much for having me.
And we'll be right back. Thanks once again for joining us for Fulton at Work, and a special thanks to our guest, Art Brown, today. Now, we want to connect with you online. Check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm Daryl Carver, and we'll see you next time.